Tonight, a Tipton High School football player remains in the hospital after suffering an injury.
For days, Chad Stover has remained in critical condition at University Hospital. Now, we're told that he suffered a severe brain injury during a game. At tonight's Fulton versus California football game, they honored Chad with a moment of silence, and the band formed the number 18, his number.
Details on his exact injury are still unclear, and we here at ABC 17 News are drawing no conclusions. But whenever there is a serious injury, it does remind us of how dangerous, physically demanding sports can be. A good amount of attention has been put on head injuries on a national level. Recently, the National Football League agreed to pay $765 million to retired players who sued the league over head injuries. But medical experts tell us the risk starts at a much younger age, in teens whose brains are still developing.
In this special report, ABC 17's Christy Reeder looks at plans that high schools have in place to deal with concussions to see if they go far enough. And Christy, it's not just football where concussions are happening.
Football is the leading sport for concussions, but they can even happen in gym class. Here's a look at recently released data from the Missouri State High School Activities Association, or MSHA. For the 2012-2013 school year, there were more than 2,500 students statewide, male and female, held out of practices and games because of a concussion. Football, wrestling, and girls basketball were the top 3 sports in Missouri for reported head injuries. And I found out that Missouri athletes missed more than 3,000 days in the classroom because of those head injuries. Now, these injury reports are more than doubled from a year earlier. It could be because more people are reporting them, something many are calling for on a national level. High school sports. They're a big deal for many. For some, an athletic scholarship may be their only chance at college and perhaps a career in sports. But an injury in the game could prove a game changer in life.
Your injury was where?
Right over there, about a 20-yard line.
Jackson Nikolai is a senior at Columbia's Hickman High School. In a 1.5-year period, he suffered 3 concussions.
I really was confused. I didn't know what was going on.
His first concussion was in a game, followed by one in gym class, then his third in football practice.
What effects are you having, after having 3 concussions in a pretty short time period?
I have headaches. I forget things that usually most people wouldn't forget.
After seeing a specialist, Nikolai made the decision to quit football because the risk was too great. A concussion is caused by a direct or indirect jolt that shakes your brain inside the skull.
In severe enough instances, it actually hits the side of the skull and causing the injury to the brain.
Pat Forbes is the coordinator of sports medicine for St. Mary's Health Center, providing medical coverage for Jefferson City and Elias high schools. He says people need to rest the idea that if you have a concussion, you have to be knocked out. Forbes says sometimes athletes can look normal after a concussion. Then 2 to 3 hours later, they start showing the symptoms like dizziness, headaches, and light sensitivity. If a concussion isn't caught, dire consequences can happen.
There's a thing called a second impact syndrome.
Forbes says it's suspected this happens in athletes up to the age of 19 who keep playing before a concussion has healed.
What happens is the brain begins to swell. 50% of those who have this injury are pretty well incapacitated mentally the rest of their life. The other 50% die.
But even with this potential outcome, it's just been in the last several years that major changes to concussion protocol have happened. In 2011, a law passed in Missouri which requires a youth athlete suspected of having a brain injury be removed from competition for at least 24 hours. To come back, they have to be cleared by a healthcare provider trained in concussions. MSHA helped write that law and also has more guidelines on top of that for returning athletes to play.
We do have a protocol in place which it goes over about a 7-day period of time.
Steps include rest and light exercise. Once symptoms are gone, the athlete progresses back into play, which can be days or weeks.
Do you have any numbness or pain going down your arms?
In Jefferson City and Columbia high schools, not all but most athletes in contact sports are given a test, usually at the start of the season, to see what their normal is. After a suspected concussion, the athletes are tested again to see where they stand. I had Stephanie West, the certified athletic trainer at Hickman, run through this test with me.
Part of it is just, what are your symptoms? Do you have a headache? Do you have nausea?
West also tests memory and concentration.
Say the months in reverse order.
October, September, August.
You stand up and do some balance. You stand on one leg, but you can't hook your leg against the other one, so just pick it up.
With eyes.
In Jefferson City, they track data on concussions among athletes, looking for trends to get a better idea of what to focus on.